Hi, this is Christine Boylan, and you are listening to Chris Gordon on Ramblings of a Hellblazer.
Good morning, good evening, and good night, Hellblazers and listeners, wherever you may be in the world right now. I'm Chris Gordon, and this is the podcast Ramblings of a Hellblazer. Tonight, hot off the heels of last week's interview with Dave Blass, I bring to you another talent from behind the scenes who helps to make Constantine the show we love. She wrote the episodes Angels and Ministers of Grace, as well as Don Svaldo. And she was co-executive producer on The Saint of Last Resorts and The Darkness Beneath. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you the very talented Miss Christine Boylan. So, hey, Christine, how are you?
Hi, Chris. How's it going?
I'm great, thank you. This is absolutely fantastic. A lot of Hellblazers are very, very happy to be able to have you interviewed with myself.
I'm delighted to talk to the fans. It's been such a great ride being able to communicate with them. This is another fun way to have that conversation. It's great.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you.
I know you've been really, really active on Twitter as well, and obviously, you and countless others for Constantine, and I think that's really kind of helped everyone sort of become a fandom like we have, and we feel really close to you guys.
Good, that's great. I mean, the writers try to be in touch with the fans. I mean, we all started as fans, and we're still fans, of other people's work, so it's great to be able to go to conventions and talk to people on panels and, live tweet. And it's been a great way for the every aspect of the production to come together, the writers, the actors, everyone in post, and the crew. We would all live. It just brought us together. We physically try to be in the same room to tweet together, which was also really sure. Yeah.
That's pretyoucool.
Yeah.
All right, as you know, I've got questions which have been sent to me from across the fans. Which you're going to get grilled with now.
Let's see what crazy things I say. Let's see what we can.
Oh, yeah. So, you kind of alluded to this. Were you and are you a fan of the Hellblazer comics?
Yes, huge. I think I started reading them in high school, probably around the time I was reading Sandman.
Right.
So, I guess that was, I don't want to date myself, but it was after it started being published. It was during the run, though, for sure. So I remember catching up. But yeah, in high school, I started early on reading superhero comics, and then around this sort of moody goth years, I started reading Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore and catching up on all that stuff. And then I got into Hellblazer and then Preacher, of course. So that whole kind of group of stuff, and then Lucifer, and it just kept going. Because Vertigo's turned out some amazing titles. But John was always a character I related to.
Oh.
I could just see myself in John a lot. And I think that the sort of misunderstood kids of all, from all places and times could relate to John. But he's great because he did the thing you wanted to do. Like he just... If somebody didn't like it, he would tell them to bugger off. He didn't, he didn't stand on ceremony, which is a very attractive quality, and also great for conflict because it constantly gets him into trouble.
Oh yeah, so, definitely.
great character. And it was. I mean, I've been writing since I was a little kid, so those were the comic books I tried to learn from, for sure.
Okay, cool.
I definitely tried to learn structure from those books.
All right, brilliant. That's fantastic. It's a cracking answer. Is there an arc you wished to see alive on screen? An angle?
Sorry about the coughing.
That's all right.
As I'm coughing, I'm method because I would like to see Dangerous Habits on screen, which involves a lot of coughing and all kinds of... here, it's just because I'm parched because it's dry and it's California. But John's situation is a lot more dire. Dangerous Habits was the one that we all wanted to do. I mean, for sure. All the writers, that was the one. I think Family Man is also great. Cam Welsh and I used to talk about Family Man all the time. Cool. Just because it's so personal to John and because it's a story that is almost stripped out and he's left defenseless. His defenses that he's built up are moot at that point. And so those two arcs, Dangerous Habits and Family Man. I think we started to lay the foundation for both during the 13 episode run. Cool.
What was your favourite episode of Constantine that aired, and why?
I love them all. Probably the two-parter where John is possessed. I love Anne-Marie. I love those episodes were written, and I love the way that they came out. The direction was great. The acting was superb. Anything you write for Matt to do, and we would up our game because he was so wonderful. We just kept pushing him.
Yeah.
I sort of joked with him on set one day. It was episode, it was the voodoo one. We just throwing him into the trunk of a car. I'm like, all I ever do is get you handcuffed, thrown into the back of the car, in tight spaces, and we sort of we had a good laugh about that.
There's some sort of undertone going on there, was it, Christine?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a lot of fun on Twitter joking about putting Matt in handcuffs, because why not? Because you can. But Matt and Angie and Harold and Michael and Charles, they will do anything. Right. So I guess my favorite episodes were the two-parter.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant, and I remember the first day talking about it in the writer's room, and the idea came up that it should be in him, but he is so strong that he is just fighting it the whole way, and we want to see the struggle. To me, that was the drama. Seeing him struggle with Pazuzu and all his own inner demons, and then having Manny come down and be, Judgy McAngel. That was pretty great too. So yeah, it was good. We get to see different sides of all the characters put in that crucible.
Yeah.
Definitely. Zed and Anne-Marie, fantastic. But I also love when Richie shows up.
Oh, yeah,
and oh my God, I love Jim Corrigan. So it is hard to choose, and I love the ones that I got to work on and be present for. But yeah, that two-parter. Oh. Shivers! I still have chills. It was so great to watch every frame of that.
Yeah, I've got to say, I mean, it must be great to be part of something like that. A lot of the fans will agree with you on that two-parter. It really did. You're right. I think it was out of them all, for me and for many, it drew the character, like you've just said. It really drew those characters out, and you could, it tested their inner sides, and the acting was, superb, as well as the writing. So it's just absolutely out of this world.
We watched we watched the dailies, of course, when either you're on set or you're back in LA watching the dailies, and we watched every single take of every single show. I definitely did. A lot of us did. I would of course, it's more fun to watch dailies than to write, so we'll put it that way. But, on some shows, it's a slog. You have to get through so many takes of so many things, and you're just watching it to see what we're going to do and where's this going to go and how did that scene change. But it was wonderment. It was like watching a great play over and over again.
Wow.
In all of those takes. Yeah. Oh my God. Matt's just the best. And it, it goes from you're number one. We always say the number one, it's the lead of the show. He's number one on the call sheet, right? So if your number one is a strong captain, everyone on the crew is going to follow that person. So he worked harder than everybody else and set an example and made us all kind of as to the occasion, for sure.
All right, cool. I know John Joe said something pretty similar as well when he came on for his 2 episodes. I mean, they're best friends anyway, but he did say, he goes,
John. Okay, so I wish I had gotten to write for John Joe. That's another thing. I feel like I need to write a play for him or something, because he's so fantastic. And I'm super jealous of Cam getting to work with him. So it's fantastic. Just great.
Oh, brilliant. I'm actually going to see him in a couple of weeks in his role as John Proctor in The Crucible. In Manchester, yeah. So when he told me after I interviewed him, he told me about that. So I was like, I've got to buy tickets to see that now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, okay. I can't wait to hear all about that on the podcast, because I wish I could see that.
Yeah, I'll have to do one afterwards and do like a review on it after.
Yeah.
So that'll be pretty cool.
That's great.
As long as everyone else wants to listen to that, but I'm pretty sure they would.
Definitely. Just do it for me.
All right.
You're for all the theater nerds out there.
Yeah, fair enough. You're on. Okay. What, if anything, would you change about any episode of Constantine, even the ones you didn't write?
Wow. Well, it's funny because we all worked together on all those episodes. I mean, there's signature things. You can point to each one and say, okay, that's Carly Rae's touch. That's the way she works. That's Cam. Like Cam's dialogue is very precise and measured, and I write with certain rhythms. Like you can kind of pick it out, and Cerrone writes a certain way, and Goyer does a certain. Verheiden is amazing. Everybody's got their certain thing, but we all worked on all the episodes together. So I do feel like we each had a hand in, which is great. So what would I change? It's the thing I would change about everything. We would have more time. Usually people say more money. Like the budget. I think it's about a little. You can either have more money or more time. I think a little more time, just to make sure that just do another draft. I'd always rather do another draft and really get clarity on what everybody and get notes and get everybody's input. Whether you take it or not. Get everybody's thoughts. Get Matt's thought. Matt comes to you with a note about the writing. It is like he doesn't waste your time. It's for real. So. And that collaboration is so valued, so having a little more time in prep, a little more time to get the things ready. But I think that's it, other than, wishing we could continue to do it. I'm in a great place now where I can write a bunch of things and develop a bunch of things and work on my own projects and pilots and stuff. But I could do Constantine forever. And I would have, So that's the thing I always tell my agents and everybody. I'm like, well, if this ever comes back, they better call me because I can't get that. You can't get that character. That character is addictive. Yeah. You can't get that character out. And also Jim, I feel like getting to kind of create the Spectre recreate the Spectre for that medium is such an honor. And I felt like I got to continue a tradition. So those characters, once they're in there, they don't really leave you.
Right, okay.
And it's funny, I was listening to John Joe talk on the podcast about playing Mercutio, and it's one of those characters that, gets under your skin. And if somebody asked me to write a scene, right now, I need 5 minutes to warm up and maybe a scotch, but, I could get there. I could get there. You don't, once it's in your body, you don't lose it. So, yeah.
That's what I said to John Joe. I think it is as well. I'm a nobody. I did.
You're mission control.
I am with these headsets. Yeah. Sitting here like I'm in NASA with this big booming headset. I think I could have a bigger one on. I was. When you do even acting in school and stuff, I did out of school and college. I did the Scottish Tragedy.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether you're at home or whether you're in the studio, so I'll make sure it's the Scottish Tragedy rather than jinx it.
Yes. We call it the Scottish play in the office for sure.
Yeah. And even then, I think even just then, it's 20 odd years later, and I'm not going to give my age away, but everyone knows it anyway. It sticks with you. I only did that a little bit, so I can only imagine when you like yourself, when you actually write for something as in depth as that it stays with you, and like with John Joe and obviously Shakespearean and Mercutio, it just stays with you, and it's something that it doesn't go, because there's still a tiny little bit of me which every time I go and watch something in theatre myself, I'll just dream about being on that stage and I'll just get lost.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny because it's one of the conversations that Matt and I have had and continue to have is the difference in the similarities between writing and acting. Because, the thing that we sort of agreed on was that no matter what, you're embodying the character. You're getting it under your skin, and you have to sort of deal with that energy. And during the Voodoo episode, I talked with Michael James Shaw about all of it. I said, I hope you're grounding that at the end of the day. And he the consummate professional, is of course, was so prepared and so able to take that energy and transform it into a performance and know when to rest. That's the most. They're like pro athletes. Those guys. It's just fantastic to watch them work. The writers, we tend to abuse our physical selves a little bit more. It's a lot more drinking and sleepless nights and stuff like that, because we don't have to physically be there. But no matter what, you are taking the character into an internal place and kind of living with that energy, no matter what. So that's, I think, where it intersects.
Cool.
But, their job is harder. I always say it. Their job is harder, for sure.
Well, you kind of write the dream, and then they bring that dream to life on screen, don't they, for you?
And I put them through some shit. I mean, for sure. Oh, can I?
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry.
Oh God. Yeah. We joked at when I was on Leverage. The joke was that I was the monologue person, or the queen of monologues, or I'm not because I was good at it per se. That's for other people to judge. But the fact that I would put the actors through it all the time, long ass speeches. And, some of them love it, some of them don't love it, but I've been lucky enough to work with so many actors who love a good speech, a good long pager, and they just every speech has 5 acts in it. Just find where the turns are and then whittle it down. So that's been a good thing too. I've worked with the best actors, so I'm really lucky.
Brilliant. Excellent. We kind of answered the next one. This next one was a late one, which came in about the writer's room and whether you sat down and broke the story together or work individually. You kind of answered that one.
We did. Well, I mean, we did all aspects. We would break the whole story together as a group, whoever was available. Because you're either off writing an episode, or you're in Atlanta producing, or you're in the room. And some of us would do kind of both. I mean, Mark Verheiden was... He's so fantastic, and he will he's able to do both. He's writing, he'll come in and help, and his story brain is just indomitable. He does not tire. He's wonderful. So, Mark would do double duty. Cam and I tried to follow that example and do that, and Daniel, of course, was able to do everything because that's what the showrunner does. So we would, I'd like to spend part of the day in the room with everybody breaking the story, and then go write, and then, have a cocktail and watch TV. I think that's a pretty good day. Even when I'm on set, I try to write. If I'm not writing the next episode, I'll just sort of do something so that I've got something on paper. Like I have a lot of Spectre stuff just to get into that character. I had written so much just extra Spectre stuff. It's just sitting around. Some of it I shared with Emmett, which we went to Dragon Con together, and just nobody knew he was the Spectre at that point, so we just sort of crashed Dragon Con and sat around in the bar and talked to people, and we had a good long chat about Jim Corrigan and his life and my life and Jim's life and what that was about. So that was pretty great. So, so writers' room. Okay, so we would break story all together. But sometimes you need a smaller kind of thing. So we'd go off, me and Brian Anthony would go and talk through some points, and everybody has a different way of working. Some people need to work it out on the page. So I need to talk. But a big group isn't necessarily good for everyone's process. Some people they come alive when it's 3 or 4 people, especially some of the younger writers. It's if there's 2 or 3 or 4 people in the room, suddenly you're hearing these voices that you hadn't heard before, and it's magical. So I like to be there for everything. So we would go anywhere from 10. We'd have everybody in our assistants were wonderful. They would come in and participate as well. So we would go from 10 people to 3 people, depending on the episode or what particular thing needed fixing.
All right, cool. That's a really excellent answer. Cheers. How did the greater evolving story of the Rise in Darkness come together?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. I mean, I think about it personally as a sort of, I don't know, how did that come about? I mean, Daniel and David had laid it into the pilot. And when the rest of us came on board, we had a good conversation about, what does it mean? How does it manifest? Who's in charge? And we really wanted to get into Swamp Thing and talk about the Brujeria and that whole arc. Yeah. John's introduction to the world, basically, through Swamp Thing. So the pieces just started to come together. So between what Daniel and David had laid in the pilot and what Alan Moore had put in Swamp Thing and what Jamie Delano had picked up in Hellblazer, we just kind of put all the pieces together, and the story just sort of evolves. It's one of those things. I always like to think that it's there, that it exists, and you just have to access it, or the statues in the marble. If you just keep hitting it, you'll find it. So that's what we did. We just kept hitting it. Eventually, we found it. But it was interesting figuring out how would it manifest, and we pitched all these different kinds of stories that were sort of using things that were going on in the world as sort of analogs, what if this was created by dark magic, Right. So, and there's a bunch of those that we still have in our pockets, which I will not tell you, but they're all they're all pretty good.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully we might get a season 2 out of it, and you can explore them even further.
Fingers crossed, because I know a couple of people at Arrow, and those guys are. It's just a really smart room over there. I think they're gonna treat John right. So hopefully it'll be an intro of John.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Into a whole, and they'll go back.
Oh, yeah, you broke up a little bit there. So.
Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, no, you're right. I think the Arrow, after such a long time, obviously, and all the disappointment, to get put into Arrow, even just for one episode, as like you say, it's a starter for 10, and I think that's a lot of the fans are thinking that as well, the hope that it's sort of generated, because once you've got it into there, you've got the whole of Arrow fandom, and even to the Flash, because people watch then, they watch the Flash, and all the whole CW DC type thing. There's a whole host of things that could actually happen and go on from Legends of Tomorrow as well as the other show. So there's a lot of things there, so it can build up. So hopefully everything's fingers crossed there.
Yeah,
cool. Right, well, you've answered the other one, whether you've got any episodes written and stored away, because you have, and you're not going to tell me about them.
I mean, so many. I mean, I have a binder right here with a bunch of stuff in it. And we all did. We all did, and we do. So cool. If you ask any of the writers, they'll be like, "Yeah, this is the thing I wanted to do." I will tell you that, like Cam Welch and I talked about doing the arc where John goes to Australia. We kept talking about, because Cam's Australian. So I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we could just take a skeleton crew and get out there and just go walkabout?"
Wow.
Just get that out there. So we talked about, in terms of fantasy stories, we're like, "Oh, that would be pretty great to do an arc in Australia." So that's one I can tell you about, because it's in the books. Yeah.
Cool. You should come and do one you should do a backstory back in Newcastle. It's not far from me. All my relatives live in Newcastle, so I'll come up and I'll gate crash.
It would be amazing. Yeah, I know. I also heard about the mucous membrane reunion.
Oh God, yeah.
I know. We really wanted to go recreate Newcastle. That was a goal and a plan, and was on the board, and so that if we ever went back, that's probably the thing we would do, is get into Newcastle and really see what happened that day, that night, that whole situation.
That would be great. I say, do it on location. I'll go and stay with my aunties and uncles, and I'll come and gate crash wherever you are.
I got my passport. I'm ready. So ready.
That'll be brilliant. And and for all the listeners here, because we're actually on video chat, so you can show me that binder on video if you want to just bring it.
No, forget it. No, you can see. Can you see any trees back there? There's trees and stuff back there. Is it blown out?
Yeah,
so
blurred out with the windows.
The white, hot, unforgiving light of Los Angeles. That's what you're saying. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Okay, more questions.
You can see the lovely forest print behind me that John Joe was explaining.
It's so lovely. It looks like the Galadriel.
It does.
Great.
Yeah, it does.
Meditate.
Righty up. So you've penned other episodes as well as acting as supervising producer of another favourite show of mine and many others, which was Once Upon a Time.
Oh, yes.
So the episodes you wrote to me are some of the really in-depth character-driven ones as well. Hang on, I'm going to get to the question in a minute. I've just realised I've written a whole mouthful on it. So it's a fun show to play with fairy tale characters in the modern age. Was that fun to actually write for?
Yes, so fun. It's a great writing staff over there. Adam and Eddie, the showrunners, are just brilliant and kind, sweet, wonderful guys. Really fun to work for. And I got to write with Jane Espenson, who's a huge hero of mine.
Cool.
She's just the best. And getting to share a script with her was pretty great. It's a very collaborative atmosphere over there. Everything is broken together. Everything is written together. And that's a certain style of doing things. It really, everyone's plugged into all the characters. But you sort of have your favorites, or in terms of things that you connect to more than anyone else. So I was lucky I got to work on the Emma and Neil backstory, because I love writing kids on the run, doing short cons and stealing things and living on love. So that was a really fun thing to work on. And how Captain Hook became a pirate.
Story.
Talk about it without like smiling and giggling. I loved it so much, and Colin is a wonderful actor. Again, a giant speech that he did, while running up and down that ship, Pirates of Penzance style, is so he was just magnificent. Everyone on that show, the costume, from the costumes to the makeup, to everyone just lends a hand in sustaining that world. Yeah. So you really just kind of check your disbelief at the door. And then the other one I really was happy to work on was Regina's adoption story with Henry, because I'm a big. I just think I love having positive adoption stories on TV. It's just an issue that I believe in. So getting to kind of show her love for the child and the story that she tells him, in that final act. I was really happy too, and Lana Parrilla is just wonderful. She and I are from the same part of Brooklyn, so which is awesome. She's amazing. The things that she does on that show, Lana and Bobby and just everyone, Jennifer, so wonderful. So that's great. Again, it's about the actors doing such a good job and wanting to challenge them and kind of rise to the level of their excellence, I think.
All right, cool. No, that's great. I actually love the show, and that one with the adoption, it really sort of, you really feel for Regina. You want to hate her because obviously the character, everything like that, but you can't. You're actually sitting there and you're feeling really emotional, and it really does. It's fantastically well written. So I'll give you full credit. That's brilliant for you and the other actors. It really drew the emotions out. And tore you apart about you've just got to hate this woman, but you can't. It's brilliant.
Yeah, she's so great. It's all. I'm going to give Lana all the credit right there.
All right. So you're not just a screenwriter or producer. You've also written for Marvel and DC, amongst others.
Yeah.
Do you prefer? Do you prefer writing for comics or for this big screen?
I like writing. Well, I do a lot of things. I've just sort of written a short novel that may or may not see the light of day, and I've done some plays just kind of produced locally. I think theater was my first love, and then got into sort of TV and comics as I started to get older. Comics are great. I think it is about having that relationship with the artist. Mm-hmm. If you can get that bond and forge that bond over time, that is what makes a great book. I don't know. I feel like I've dipped my toe in a bit. Like I've gotten to write, Bizarro. I wrote this Bizarro. Good luck finding it, but it's a Bizarro and Lex Luthor one shot. It's like 2 pages long, but right. It was one of the first things I did for DC, and I remember my editor was like, so sad. It's like the saddest Bizarro story. But, and of course it's very talky because that's what I do. But it's good. I've gotten to kind of play in a lot of different sandboxes. So, that story just launched me into other things. I've done some manga, some original manga, Star Trek. So I did original series Star Trek and then Next Gen. Cool. Yep. Super fun. And just getting to watch the series again to prep for that was really great. And I like
find an excuse to watch that though.
Yeah, it was great. And I mean, the manga format's great because it's longer page count, so you can really kind of develop a longer story. Yeah. And writing Doctor Strange, that was a huge just coup. It just was so great. I love that character. I've always loved that character. So that was a real thrill. I think that's the only thing I've done at Marvel. And then I've done a bunch of original sort of short stories for Boom Comics that were in the Lovecraft universe. So it was one sort of tangentially about the Blob, one about Cthulhu, and it was always about people bungling with magic or getting into it. In retrospect, I think I was gearing up to write Constantine.
I was about to say that. Yeah, it sounds very much like it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you can find those Boom comics, they're pretty. They're all right. They're okay. And I've written some of the sadder zombie comics over there. Sadder in tone, maybe not in execution. I mean, you're the judge. Yeah. But yeah. That comics are great. I haven't done it in a while, but now that I'm getting back into prose and other areas, definitely, if something came up that was, I think I'm more looking at adaptations of comics at this point in my career. But we'll see what happens. It's a great medium.
It is, yeah. I mean, I can imagine if you've got that love and interest of it to actually, sort of put them across, it's fantastic. Which kind of leads me on to the next one, is how does it feel to write a storyline and then see it played out on the screen? I mean, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best feeling. Even when, like, it's not what it's never what you imagine. And that's what's great about it. Even if it's, at first you're like, no, that's wrong. No, it's never wrong. Something I had to learn early on in my career, and I got, my first show was Leverage, and I was beyond lucky to work with those actors. I mean, Gina Bellman and Timothy Hutton and Beth Riesgraf and Aldous Hodge and Christopher Kane. Wonderful group. And they, it's never how you think it's going to be. And I write rhythmically, or I try to write everything to be spoken. Even if it's prose, it has to be spoken out loud, because somebody will speak it out loud. It's a poem that's going to get shoved in the drawer. Like, you have to try it out loud. Yep. So I try to be mindful of that. It's like somebody has to, and when I mentor younger writers, I say somebody has to say this. Just remember, if you can't say it, it's going to be, they're trained and they're going to be great, and they'll probably make a beautiful souffle out of these ingredients that you're going to give them, but make sure it's at least sayable, because they're going to do it over and over again. So I always strive to find those lines that, like, blossom a bit. If you've said them 20 times, you start to find something new in it. Someday I'll do something that good. But you have to aspire to that. So I don't know if I'm even answering your question. Oh, it's just great. Yeah, it's so great to see. It's so great. It's so great. I think the scene of Jim Corrigan and Zed in which episode was it? It must have been the Voodoo episode. There was a few there that I was on set, and I was thrilled, and it was 100 and something degrees. It was, we were all getting eaten alive by bugs, but I don't know, everybody had such a good time, and sometimes you write stuff and you have no idea if it's going to work, and then they say the words, and you're sitting there going, oh, yeah, I know what the scene's about. So some part of you found it earlier on, and then you sort of forget that you found it, and then you hear it. I'm great at forgetting stuff and then hearing like it's new. So you sit there with your headphones on, and you hear it like it's the first time, and some wonderful actor has found a way to make it make sense. Right. So that's great. It's thrilling. It's the best. And I think that's what got me into directing. I started directing this past, year or two. I did 2 short films. The first one with Alan Smith, who's who's on Leverage, fantastic, also stage actor. And I just finished directing a Western with Lindsay Fonseca, who is amazing, wonderful, and that is in post-production right now, so hopefully I'll have that to show to everybody in a couple of months. We raised some money online, and the fans have been really helpful about supporting. Brilliant. So that's been really good. Yeah, and I think Matt is totally one of those people who gave me the courage and the nerve to say, oh yeah, I can direct. Just because we were able to have those deep conversations about things. And every director I've worked with on the past, however many shows I've been on, has let me sort of follow them around like a little duckling and ask questions. And, I think the best thing is, if you're a writer and it's your first time on set, or if you're anybody on set, when there's downtime, ask some random person about what they do. So let the grip tell you about his job. Let the sound mixer tell you about his or her job. Everyone wants to talk about their job, and just being curious about it is the best thing you can do. So after all those years of hanging out with those guys, I'm like, I think I could direct. I know what everybody does. I know your job. I know your job. Okay, so let's try it. So I think it's I wouldn't have had the nerve if I hadn't spent all that time out in the woods in Atlanta.
Cool, nice one. Yeah, so it would be nice to just try and find what everyone does. Sort of learn their jobs. I do that. I mean, I'm only IT, but I try and weave my way around. It's a great thing to do, because then you can do something. Obviously, in the industry that you're in, if to move into something like directorship, it will make it a little easier if you know and you've been around and you've spoken to people, so you know exactly how they should be working around that. Cool. So can you describe to me your typical day?
Oh, now or when I was on the show? Because it totally changes. Atypical. Every day is atypical. Okay, so I'll tell you now, it's a bit calmer. I mean, we just moved house, as I told you, and so it got crazy. It was crazy for 2 weeks, but now I'm in my new office, and I'm just sort of getting into it. I get up, I work out on some days, or I'll have a meeting or a breakfast meeting or something like that. I'm a night person. Okay. I don't wake up early unless I have to, if I have to get up at 4 and get in a van, I'll do that. To be on set somewhere for sunrise, I'll do it. But there's a lot of coffee involved and whatever. But I think I'll probably start working around like noon. Today it's noon now, so I'll probably go to lunch. I'll probably work in the afternoon today because I have some flexibility today. Cool. And as long as I get a certain number of hours done when I'm on my own. Yeah. I'm good. So if I get my whatever I've set that day, I set a goal in the morning, and then when I hit those hours, great. Hopefully, if I do that, I've hit all the deadlines. I've finished deadlines. So, but if you think about the deadline, you just start to sweat, and I can get paralyzed. So I set it. I set an hourly goal. Other people work by page goals. Mm-hmm. That doesn't quite work for me, but I do think it's like a morning person, night person thing. It's like page goals or hour goals. But I love working with timers. I set little timers, even when I'm on a show. So when I was on Constantine, it was a little bit different. I'd get up around 7, go work out, drive over to Burbank, where the studio was, and I usually... Cam and I almost always got in at the same time, which was really funny. So I'd usually see him in the parking lot, and it would be sort of sunglasses, carrying a coffee. We would chat. We were like two old ladies. We would chat all the way up to the office. Then I would do check-ins. I would check in with everybody. Check in with Daniel, check in with Sammy, who's in Daniel's office, who knows everything. Mm-hmm. He always knows where everyone is and who's doing what, and is anything on fire in Atlanta? I mean, I do take the producer title very seriously. I think you have to find out, did anything blow up? Is everybody happy? And then, I go into the writers' offices and check on them. And everybody, it's not something that just I do. Everybody does that. So, you're seeing everyone in the morning and you're grabbing your coffee. And then you go into the room and whatever story's on the board, you just, bang on that for a while. Luckily, it's lunch. Then you go to the writer's lunch is the most important thing, as John Rogers always says, who is my boss at Cambridge and a good friend. You never mess up the writer's lunch, he says, but he uses stronger language than that. And, lunch is great. We try to go outside and get a little air and sun for about, however many minutes. Walk around, move around, go back in, bang on the story some more until, until it's time to go home, which could be 4 or 5 or 6. So Constantine was not a show where we stayed late. I don't think staying late helps necessarily. I know comedy is different. I think things are different levels of funny at different times of the night. But we were writing a serious show. With John's funny, but we weren't funny. So we would leave it a decent hour, and sometimes we'd go grab a drink afterwards, or just go go see a play, or go home and watch TV, or go home and write, or stay in my office. Sometimes we would stay in the office until 3 a.m. and work on scripts if there was a deadline.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah, so then we'd have the assistant get us dinner and sometimes a bottle of wine, and we would write until, I don't know. I think because Cam and I were on script at the same time, I think both times, so there was a lot of whoever's working while you're working, and Mark was really helpful this way too. You could kind of run down the hall, knock on the door, and say, "Can I just read this scene with you, or would you look at this, or did we do that thing, or did we cut it out? I can't remember." And the editors always work late, except for a few who are morning people who will come in crazy early. So you cannot, there's always somebody around and working. So if you personally decide you want to stay late and work, everybody's cool with that. So that was great. So that was a typical day at Constantine, which was super fun. Most shows are like that. Not everybody likes each other on shows. I will say that we had a group where everybody liked each other, and I was always happy to see everyone's face.
Cool. So. That seems to be the recurring theme from everyone I've spoken to, was that, it just happened to be such a close-knit crew and cast and crew. Very, very family-like. It was brilliant. Yeah. Cool. And I know you're a night person because I keep getting emails from you, and it must be like 2 or 3 in the morning for you, and I'm like, whoa!
I love that you do the math. It's like, why is she up? What's going on? Yeah.
I know, yeah. Now you just showed me that I'm a complete geek, and I just sit there and look at
No, that's good. I totally forgot it was 8 hours, because I'm from New York, so I always think of it as being like 5 hours, and then I go, no, it's 8. It's 8. You have to add the rest of the United States in there. But,
yeah. It has proved, what's the word, adventurous or fun, should I say, trying to make sure when I'm talking to different people, because, I say, John, Joe and Matt were in London at the time, you're in LA, Angelica was in LA, Dave was in, mind you, you're all in pretty much in LA, so it's all like quite easy to stand out.
Cool. Oh, right, you talked to Dave Blass, he's fantastic.
He was fun, he was great. He kept getting interrupted as well about 3 or 4 times, bless him, because he was just sat in his office, and you could just, like you've just explained, when you're all together on set, he was just, people just coming in constantly, and it was all right.
Plus, saved my bacon a million times. Oh my God, I have to do this thing. Can we make it like this? Can we do that? And he's wonderful. Great guy.
Excellent. Really. Cool. So, are you a scribbler and have pages of handwritten notes and storylines, or are you a slave to technology?
Sure, so it's right here. I was like, so, see that? Yeah. I'm showing him paper with handwritten things. Here's my fountain pen that I write by hand. I just think differently. It's like talking. Talking is helpful to me. It's because I've kept you on Skype for so long. You know that. But
I'm enjoying it. It's fine. Don't worry.
I handwrite everything. My handwriting is terrible. My husband calls me Dr. Boylan because it is indecipherable. I mean, it's really bad. And I try to improve it. I'm always kind of trying, but, I hold the pen weird and whatever. So I switched to fountain pens, I don't know, a long time ago because it made the writing slightly less terrible. And also, I love the feel of a nice sort of writing instrument. This is my Workaday pen. This is the Lamy Safari. I'll give a shout out to Lamy, fine German pens at all price points. No, they're really good.
There you go. Can I have some money for that now?
Yeah, seriously. And their customer service is really good because I've definitely busted up a couple of pens and had them reset. For me. I have a Monteverde right here, which is a much heavier pen. But again, not too fancy because I use these every day. I use inkwells sometimes, and with a cartridge, and some or a cartridge. So that depends on whatever. But yeah, I'm a bit of a pen geek. That's John Rogers is as well. So we talk about that on Twitter sometimes about our pens. I like Sharpies. I like index cards on a cork board. All right, yeah. A lot of people use whiteboards. I have a whiteboard in here right now. It's like shoved in the corner, and it's basically a giant to-do list. But I prefer a corkboard with cards. I think that's really great. And at Constantine, we did both. Yep. But then the corkboard got covered with amazing art. So by the end, it was beautiful production art, and so we had to write on the whiteboard only. I'm a scribbler. And then you type everything up. I have a keyboard that here it is. Cool. I work on a laptop, but I have a sort of a separate keyboard that is a bit more, it's for kinesthetics, I think, because it's got a feel and a sound, and the keys are weighted, so you can feel like you're doing something when you're typing. And I have a giant mouse as well. so yeah, I try to sneak in any extra draft I can, like either dictate it to some poor assistant or write it out by hand. I did do that at Constantine. I would drag Matt Levine, who's a great, wonderful art writer's assistant, into the room and say, "Look, okay, I'll buy you dinner. Can you just sit here I'm just going to dictate the scene. Can you just type? And he did, and he's wonderful. And I've abused assistants in the past with that. I'm like, just type. I'm sorry. I just need to pace. So it's kind of about like moving around the room for me, having something you can like touch, like a pen or whatever. Typing's the most boring part of the equation, I think.
It is, yeah. I think it's sad because I think writing sort of, as in writing pen to paper is going out of fashion now, and I love writing pen to paper. I'm not a writer. I'm just there's a feeling of it, you know. It just feels better, and it. You know, I find I can think more if I've written it down by hand. I can concentrate more and remember, which is great for when you're a project manager like me. And I have to write things down because I've run it on the computer. There's so many times I've forgotten and got into trouble because I've completely it passed my by. But you're right; it's there, right on paper in front of you. You can, a noteboard. So, I can get you on that one.
It's a great question.
Cool. So, who inspires you, and who inspired you to become a screenwriter?
Wow. When did I first learn this was a job? When I was 6 years old, my mother took me to see Annie on Broadway. It was one of those, we didn't have a lot of those, fancy nights out, but that was one. And I was rapt. I just could not look away. I was so in love. And I love musicals, of course, right? But it was the idea of that drama unfolding on the stage, right in front of me. And at intermission, I said to my mom, she could just see how into it I was. And she's like, you want to act? You want to be one of the orphans? Is that what it is? And I was like, no, who made this? So in my 6-year-old brain, I was like, I know someone put this together. And I didn't really equate that with writing or directing, producing. And I would later on go and work in the theater and find out what all the jobs were. Yeah. But at that, 6-year-old brain was like someone made this. So from that point on, I was like, I want to be the person who makes this. And although I've taken some terrible stabs at acting and definitely some, I've done voiceover work a little bit for friends. It's been pretty fun. But yeah, the making of it was the thing I wanted to do. So I just started writing. I was very bookish. I studied literature in school, dramatic literature and modern novels as well. And that was my concentration, and drama and a few other things. But that's who inspired. We could do this. We could talk all day. When I grew up, I started reading James Joyce and Virginia Woolf, and those were big touchstones for me in terms of breaking the laws of fiction, and then starting to see that done on the stage. That was amazing to me. And then, TV hooked me really early. I love sitcoms, because sitcoms felt like plays. So that was a thing that my brain put together at a very young age. And, Aaron Sorkin was a huge influence. Teresa Reback, and people who are putting out plays and stuff now and show running. There's so many great people. David Goyer, who I got to work with. Jane Espenson, who I got to work with. Yeah. I keep getting to work with people whose work I have admired in the past. So that's been great. And I know I'm missing about 200 names, so forgive me for that. But yeah, it's all over the map. I'm a huge Tom Stoppard fan. I know he had a new play out, and I did not get to London to see it, so I'm hoping that it gets done in New York, and I'll get a chance to see it. I try to see all of his plays at least in New York and read them. So because there's something wonderful about the way he connects the intellect and the sort of viscera. So everything is about love and sex and but it's all also about the mind and the life of the mind, and you don't have to choose one or the other. You can have both. So he's been a huge inspiration, I think.
All right, brilliant. That's fantastic answer on that as well. We're going to say Annie was my first and only ever delve into musicals. I was Drake the Butler when I was 17 years old.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It's came out with a lovely English accent and everyone fell about laughing, and that was my love then. It was just
That's perfect. Oh, it's so great.
Cool. that actually brings me to the end. I've just realised I've got no more questions for you.
Oh, sad.
I know.
That means I have to go to lunch. Oh, I mean, hooray! Writer's lunch, very important.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So, if you stay on the line after I say goodbye in a minute, and then, if that's right. So, have you got anything you'd like to say to all the Hellblazer fans before you sign?
I love you. I love you, fans. I love the Hellblazers. I do. And I've gotten to interact with a lot of great fandoms. I've interacted with the Leverage fandom and the Once fandom, the Castle fans. I did a show with Joey McIntyre from the New Kids on the Block. That was the last stage thing I did. Those, oh my God, the blockheads are fantastic. But I have to say, of all the fandoms, Hellblazers are unique because the groundswell of support happens so quickly and is so loving and so it's creative. It's a little cheeky. They're just great. I'm so grateful for that because, you can really be turned off to Twitter. There's a lot of stuff that there are days I'm like, I need to just take a month off. I need to just get away from social for a while. But there's always something beautiful or strange or fun that the Hellblazers are bringing up. So I'm grateful to be able to even talk to them on this podcast. And if they have other questions, they can tweet me. And I'll get to them when I can. But they've been super respectful and yet saucy. I love that combo. So it's keep that alive, guys. You're great. Keep the flame alive for sure.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Christine, for that. That's been absolutely fantastic insight into your role in helping to bring Constantine to life. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. You're lovely. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, that was a fantastic interview. Thank you very much, Christine, for your time. Really appreciate that. Listeners, Hellblazers, wherever you are, I hope you really enjoyed that. I found it very informative. Okay, so, anyway, I shall say good night for now, but if you could just listen up and listen out, and I shall bring you more interviews, hopefully, very, very soon. Take it easy, guys, and I'll catch you soon.